Let's talk about the Mar-A-Lago raid and what happened there, okay? So at this point of the game, you know the story. The people know the story. It's gone back and forth. Now they're saying, hey, former FBI official says Russian, Chinese, and Iranian spies could have tried to infiltrate Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence. This is an insider story, which I believe is said by Peter Strzok, the same guy I was talking to you about earlier, who was once the deputy director of FBI's counterintelligence division, said that it is likely that foreign agents from Russia, China tried to infiltrate former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence, considering the top secret documents that were being kept there. Strzok was fired from the agency for sending anti-Trump texts on his work phone. Absolutely the Russians, but not the Russians alone. Any contempt foreign intelligence services, whether that's those belonging to China, those belonging to Iran, to Cuba, certainly including Russia, were interested and are interested in gaining access to Mar-a-Lago, he said, especially concerning the lack of any sort of control or memorialization of who had access to Mar-a-Lago at any given time. So when you hear something like that and what happened with Mar-a-Lago, first of all, just the position that they took where, Biden says, we had no clue about it. This is not something we knew about it, And then Garland is the only one. I know nothing about it. It's not my project, somebody else's. Yeah, okay. There is 8 billion people in the world. There's only one other guy that's a former president. If somebody raids that guy who was your enemy, he's your enemy, he's the guy that you don't want to go up against. You knew nothing about it. None of that was disclosed to you. And then when they give the affidavit, you saw what came out with all the black bars and, nothing is wanting to be disclosed. For someone like you who's in the world, how are you processing what happened here with Mar-a-Lago?
So Trump has been a target of investigations since the time he was running for president in 2016. This is just this is a predictable breadcrumb in that long-term trail, right? There's a tool that we use at the agency called Harem's Razor. And Harem's Razor tells us to never subscribe to conspiracy what can be explained through incompetence. So never subscribe to conspiracy what can be explained through incompetence. So do I believe that Biden knew that this was going to happen? Probably not. Maybe it was on a list somewhere that got buried on the bottom of his 10-page list and he just never got to it. Maybe he was supposed to be briefed and someone didn't brief him. Maybe the Department of Justice, which falls under the judicial branch of government, actually decided not to tell him because he is the executive branch of government and we have 3 different branches that don't have to communicate everything to each other. So who knows how it turned out. But I don't see conspiracy in this. What I see in this is a continuation of the same sort of hunting behavior to find enough evidence to bring some kind of criminal prosecution against Trump that sticks. And it's the same thing that we did for a long time against Hillary Clinton. So this is just, unfortunately, this is the world of politics that Americans are going to live in for a while as we try to mix executive branch and judicial branch and keep trying to hunt down politicians and business people acting like businessmen and politicians.
How much of this is political incentivization versus actual, all right, let's figure out the truth here, in your opinion?
I think a lot of it is political. I don't think the truth is something that the government is particularly interested in when it comes to Trump. They either know the truth to a high enough probability that they can make their decisions moving forward, or they don't know the truth, but they also can't just ignore it. To just ignore it would mean to basically let go of all of the time and all of the money and all of the effort that they've put into it so far. And let's not forget, Trump is still an extremely powerful player in Republican politics. Extremely powerful player. Whether he runs for president or not, what he says about a candidate transforms that candidate's opportunities.
You brought up Hillary Clinton, and I assume you're talking about the parallel between her email server and top security information and in this exact same scenario with Trump. What's the parallel you're seeing there?
People try to hunt down some sort of judicial criminal action to either eradicate or neutralize the threat of that politician. It's just, the stuff that we saw in 2016 on just the Democratic side was horrible. We saw the Clinton campaign, we saw the Democratic National Convention undermine Sanders intentionally when he was running against Clinton. Like that is manipulation of politics all day long. The idea that the voter gets the ultimate say, yes, that's true. But then you also have things like in 2020 when Instagram decided to start telling everybody as soon as you logged into Instagram, as soon as you opened up the app, register to vote, click here to register to vote. It was pushing registrations to vote of the audience that they knew was on Instagram, which is a certain age demographic, a certain socioeconomic demographic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which, I mean, that was common. This is the world that we're living in now as everybody starts to get so heavily involved in politics. And we start seeing conspiracy everywhere, when what we really need to be accepting is like, this is America's adolescence. We're not a mature country. We're just over 200 years old. We're not mature. China's 4,000 years old, right? We're coming into our adolescence, growing pains and hair in new parts of our body that we never saw before. Remember how terrible that felt when you couldn't wear sweatpants to school anymore? That's a horrible feeling for a dude. That's where we are right now when we've got like 50 to 100 years of adolescence coming up. And this is the kind of garbage we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and by the way, I understand what you're saying on the truth, conspiracies. I have a very hard time believing that the president didn't know they were going to be doing this. A very, very hard time believing. Again, for example, like LeBron James, who are the people that he's going to know everything that's going on with those people? Michael Jordan's probably one of them because he's trying to pass up Michael Jordan. Okay. Like, he probably sees everything that's going on with Michael. Okay. All right. Barack Obama, who was he seeing that's, what's going on with anything with them? He probably followed everything that was going on with the Clintons because, behind closed doors, they're apparently big competitors. And he was probably following everything that was going on with Trump, even when he gave that one speech from stage, and he did the tweet and, Trump said this about you on Jimmy Fallon or Kimmel says, at least I will go down as being a president. You won't be a president. And Trump becomes the president. Yeah. So, hey, elections have consequences. And Obama looks to the left. He's right. So I have a hard time believing in the game of competition that you don't know that they're doing this. Oh, I didn't know this was going on. And when you say you don't know what's going on, do you know how pathetic you look as a leader? Wait, let me get this straight. You did not know that that's going on? Yeah. Man, what kind of a leader are you? That you don't know this kind of stuff is going on. If you don't know what's going on with him, maybe you shouldn't be in office. Because a person that should know is in office should have known that this is going on. Yeah, it's both ways. No matter what direction you say, I didn't know, I did know. It doesn't look good for anybody.
No, I agree. I agree with that. It doesn't look good for anybody. There's a word that you used quite a bit in that explanation, right? The word was probably. And the core word in probably is probable. The root word is probable. Probable refers to probability. So what the word probably actually means is there is a high probability that such and such is true.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. There is a probability that Biden knew. I just don't know that it's a high probability. 51% versus 49%. I think there's a very high probability someone tried to communicate it to him, but I don't know that there's a high probability he actually knew. On all the things on that dude's list, the lowest presidential approval ratings in history. In history, the lowest presidential approval ratings ever. That dude's got a whole lot of crap on his plate, and maybe the Mar-A-Lago raid didn't make the top of his sheet that day, right? I mean, I've seen the presidential daily brief, the PDB that they get every day. They don't get through the PDB every day. They can't.
It's like 100 pages every single day, right?
About all the biggest threats facing America.
Yeah.
The Mar-a-Lago raid is not a threat to America, right? So even if it was in there, buried under Iran and their posturing about nuclear weapons and North Korea launching a weapon and what's going to happen in China right now and what's Russia doing in Ukraine and what's Syria looking like right now and what's going to happen in Yemen, what's going to happen in Libya. Like, think about the headache the president has every day. It's one of the reasons why no matter how you feel about Trump, you got to respect the fact that he sat in that seat for 4 years. That's everybody who takes that presidential seat. That is a massive. They age. Look at what happened to Obama. Look at what happened to Bush. They age so fast because that is a shit seat to sit in.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.